how you create an all-over pattern print using your own drawings or your own elements, and then how you digitally drape it or mock it up onto a product so you can get a true indication of what your pattern would actually look like in its product form. So for the purposes of this demo, what I've got here is a couple of my daughter's little character drawings, which I'm going to use. So I'm going to go File and New and create a new file. So I've set myself up with a custom tile that's 30 centimetres by 30 centimetres. This way I sort of know then how big the pattern print is. So what you need to do is just put in here 300mm or 30 centimetres by 30 centimetres and just make sure the colour mode is on CMYK and then click create. So this is our little tile, our pattern tile that we're going to work our pattern into. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is we want to view this as a pattern. So go View and Pattern Preview. And what that now does is it gives you an indication of what the pattern will look like all over. So although this is the live working space, it will continue repeating the elements you drop within this space here. So when it comes to adding the elements, what you don't want to do is go File, Open and add them in that way. You want to literally drag and drop them from your folders, purely because you want to drag and drop these as smart objects. And the reason being, if you were to go File and Open, you would then be editing these actual files. Whereas if you drop these in as smart objects, you're only editing this version of them. So your original file remains uncorrupted. So you can, keep working with it. And you've done it as a smart object if you see this little icon appear next to your thumbnail, because then that indicates that it's a smart object that you're using. So I'm just going to continue to drag and drop these elements into my pattern. And then finally we have a hedgehog. So this then is your working space, and what you'll notice is as I move the elements, they move around the whole of the rest of the space. So if I zoom out, it'll give you an idea of what it is exactly you're creating. So this will keep repeating your pattern to infinity, and it will create as large a space as you want, okay? So this is your active pattern file here. So now what we need to do is we need to tell Adobe that it is an actual pattern. So obviously Adobe comes with lots of patterns already installed, but now we want to add our pattern that we've just created. So what you want to do is go Edit, Define Pattern. I'm going to call this one Animals. Okay. So now we have our animals added into our pattern palette. So the next job now we have created a defined pattern. This will now fill, whenever we click on this, it will fill a given space with that pattern, okay? So now what I want to do is I want to open up the object that I want to drape this within. So I'm going to superimpose this pattern onto this cushion here, this plain white cushion. So the first thing I want to do is unlock this layer and then create a duplicate of this layer. There we go. So I have two copies of it. Now, on the duplicated layer, I'm then going to do Object Selection Tool, and I'm going to select the cushion. And Photoshop will now identify the area that it is that I want to work with, okay? And I'm going to create a layer mask of that area. So now I have my original layer and a layered mask over the top where just this element is selected. So the next step now is make sure you're on the layer mask area. You want to go down to FX and then select Pattern Overlay. So it defaults to the last pattern that was used. I'm now going to select the pattern that I just created, which is my all over animals. Okay. And then at this stage, you can scale it. So if you drag this slider, you can then adjust the size and scale of the pattern within the object. So if you intended these characters to be quite large on there, you can drag it up. If you intended it to be quite a small, all over sort of ditzy pattern, you can drag it right down like I have there. Now it will automatically, it's only because I've used Multiply before, it will automatically stay on the last setting, and it's normally normal blend mode. Now you can see on normal blend mode, it just looks too stark. It doesn't look realistic at all. So what you want to do is you want to change that to multiply so that it actually blends it in with the existing image that sits behind. And then at this point, I can adjust the angle of the pattern depending on how the product is sitting. So I'm going to tweak it up a little bit because the cushion is on a slight angle. There we go. And then I'm going to increase the, no, I'm going to keep the scale at 1, I think. And then say, okay. And there you have your pattern mocked up onto a product. Now, if you were doing this on a garment that had lots of drapes and lots of shape to it, you would need to warp your layer first. And I'll do an alternative video demonstrating that. This is for when you have quite a basic shape that you're dropping it onto that doesn't have a lot of detail going on. It doesn't have a lot of drapes or pleats or elements on there. Because otherwise, if I just dropped this onto an object, it would look very flat. Whereas if there was like lots of tucks, then the pattern would wave. So what you need to do is you need to warp and distort that pattern before dropping it on. So this is to do it onto a basic flat surface like this. And then what you should do is you should print out a copy of that and pop it into your sketchbooks.